Hello and welcome to the Badger Politics Show. Last week a ruling by the Upper Tribunal found that the situation in Libya met the test set out in Article 15C. This means that from now on any Libyan who reaches the UK can stay, at least for a certain period of time, whether or not they qualify as a refugee. But what is Article 15C? What does it mean, and what's the situation in Libya that led to this change? I plan to explain that and more in this short video. The law states that if you can show that you're at risk of serious harm even if you don't qualify for refugee status, the UK has an obligation to provide protection. Article 15 defines what serious harm is. 15C in particular says that serious harm is, quote, a serious and individual threat to a civilian's life or person by reason of indiscriminate violence in situations of international or internal armed conflict. In our case, you have to prove that in Libya there is an internal armed conflict, indiscriminate violence, and that as a result of this, there is a serious and independent threat to the lives of people if they were to be returned there. So what actually is going on in Libya? Well, as the judgment says, the situation is complex and fast-moving, i.e. no one really knows. The main conflict is between the two rival governments that developed after Gaddafi was removed from power in 2011. The UN-backed government of the National Accord and the Libyan National Army run by General Khalifa Haftar, a military defector from Gaddafi's era. However, there are tons of smaller groups fighting in Libya, including ISIL. To make matters worse, due to the fighting, Libya's economy, generally based around oil, slowed. There have also recently been airstrikes in the east of Libya by the Egyptian military against what they claimed were terrorist camps. Essentially, the country is a chaotic mess, with basic services like healthcare and policing not being provided. Rule of law is broken down in many places and there are regularly deadly outbursts of violence, even in civilian areas. For a bit of perspective, the courts concluded that not even Iraq was this dangerous. This lack of law is partially what allowed many refugees to travel to Italy from Libya. If you want to find out more, I've included an Al Jazeera article that goes into the topic in a bit more depth in the description, as well as the full judgment and an article that explains it a bit more. In conclusion, the courts have ruled that from now on Libyan citizens will be permitted to stay in the UK. This is due to the courts concluding that Libya is so dangerous that anyone just living there without having any enemies in particular risks being killed. This is due to the terrible, chaotic conflict that still wages on in the area, as shows little sign of ending. And on that cheerful note, thanks for watching. This was the Badger Politics Show. Tune in next week for more.